Hi guys, welcome back. So today I am 5 days bedbound with my chronic acephalgic migraine, which is silent migraine without a headache. It's also a vestibular migraine, which is solely focused really in the brainstem and causes terrible dizziness, nausea, vomiting, vision problems, transient expressive aphasia, which is the ability to talk properly or write properly or string a sentence together. Sometimes I just write words which are completely the wrong word, but they sound like or they spelt like the right word, and even though I know it's wrong, afterwards, at the time I don't see it. So I go and I read back what I've written and it's absolute nonsense, and I can't remember why I would have done it or what I was thinking at the time. It just doesn't make much sense. So that sucks big time. The other problem is that it leaves you utterly drained and unable to function or do anything apart from sleep for days. It usually starts out with the sensation, if you've ever played that game where someone cracks an egg on your head and then does this really gently and you feel it's the yolk sort of spreading through your hair. Obviously it's not a real egg, it's just a game with your hand, but something we used to play in the playground as kids, and it feels like that on either side of the back of my head, and that's sort of a warning sign that stuff's about to happen, or a sort of whooshing, cascading tinnitus sound is the other thing that might happen, which tells me it's about to come on. But I'll see all manner of strange things. Today it looked like when you're cooking over a gas hob. I've got an electric hob here, but if you're cooking over a gas hob and you look through the sort of steam or the gas haze and everything's all a bit oily looking and hazy and moving, or sort of covered with the white static that you get on a television screen, you know, the white noise bit. It's like that, and it makes it very difficult to do anything during that time. I'll also see little black floaters or little white floaters, and I'll see things ghosted. It's not true double vision. So when I went to the ophthalmologist in the orthoptics department at the hospital, they tested my vision. They do this thing where they put these things in front of your face and they can force certain visual phenomenon to happen to you so that they can ask, is that what it is? Is that what it is? And when they went through the double vision one, it was not that, because double vision you see two of the object distinctly separated with a gap in the middle. You know, there's two of them. What I have is not like that. I see a ghosted image. So the one and the other one sort of overlaid or underlaid, almost yellowy drop shadow almost, and that is it's not the same as double vision. But when I'm having this phenomenon, I can't read properly, I can't write properly, but both because my language is impaired and because my vision is impaired, I can't drive properly when I'm dizzy. I can't drive properly when I'm visually messed up. And I have spatial awareness issues as well as the dizziness, in that I don't know which way is up. I don't know where the ground is, and I fall. And the worst of those is usually falling down the stairs, but the more common one is tripping when I'm standing still, and you shift your weight from one foot to the other when you're standing talking to someone for a while, and I will literally fall over through doing no more than shifting my weight from one leg to the other, just because I thought that the floor was there and it wasn't, it was somewhere else, and I'll fall flat on the ground, and that's a very strange phenomenon. Failing at life here. And it's made worse by any type of physical exertion or exercise, which will set me off. And even travelling in the car with somebody else driving, the sensation of moving and everything will make it 10 times worse. I'm not a doctor. From my understanding, the condition is it's an electrochemical mess up in the brain, and like epilepsy is a strange undesired electrochemical pattern going on in the brain at the time, and migraine is like that, called cortical spreading depression, and it's a different kind of electrochemical event that's going on compared to an epileptic seizure. But from what I understand, basically it changes the polarity of the cells as it travels across the cortex. It's going to be really noisy though. I'm going to open the back door. Hang on. I needed something else from the fridge. This is my cooking chair, which I found at a charity shop in the summer last year when I was really ill, and this had been going on for months at that point with no medical diagnosis and so no proper treatment, and it helps when I need to do the cooking because it means I can sit up at the stove at the right level and put all my stuff together, and I can just sit here and cook, because standing is not safe. And this has got, it's an umpire's chair, it's got a footrest and everything, so I can be quite square on it with my knees against the cooker, and I'm pretty wedged in, so I'm not likely to fall off it, so it seems like the safer option. This, by the way, if you've never used it, is the most amazing thing ever. It's mushroom ketchup, and it's an old Victorian recipe. It's not like dipping ketchup, like tomato ketchup, it's just a liquid. And it is just the best in mushroom risotto or gravies or anything like that. It's really nice. Anyway, that was a tangent. I can't remember what I'm talking about. Yes, so I went to the GP who referred me to the ENT because at first I was being treated for an ear infection that wasn't an ear infection. It was severe ear pain, tinnitus, and everything all on one side. So I was given antibiotics. I'm allergic to penicillin, so that doesn't help. But I took another type of antibiotics that doesn't agree with me. I'm not actually allergic to it, but it gives me really bad stomach cramps as a side effect. So we switched to several different antibiotics trying to treat this ear infection that didn't exist, and nothing was helping. So in the end I went to the ENT. I went to the dentist because we thought it might be TMJ because I had all this pain around my ears and this part of my head, and I thought maybe it was TMJ, which is I can't even remember what it stands for, but it's something to do with the muscle of the jaw, basically. And it usually goes hand in hand with teeth grinding, which is something that I've definitely done in the past, but apparently I don't do now according to my dentist because my back teeth are not ground down. Yes, I went to the ENT. So it started in the November. I went to the ENT at the end of January, and she said she did all these tests and looked at my ears and things and said, "There's nothing wrong with your ears. You know, there's no ear infection. There's no sign of anything like blue ear that I had as a kid because I was deaf till I was 4 and I had terrible problems with my eustachian tubes and whatnot. But no, there was no sign of anything like that. And I'd been when I was 15, 16 doing my GCSE music to see the ENT because I thought that the eustachian tube problem was back and they couldn't find anything then, and now I think it was the same thing as this. And also another thing that happens when you're a kid, if you're going to get this, tends to be car sickness, which was a terrible thing that I had and none of my siblings did. I always had trouble with car sickness, motion sickness of any kind. So yeah, went to see the ENT. She then referred me for a whole load of additional tests to rule out Meniere's disease and any kind of vestibular issues with the inner ear, BPPV, which is benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, if I've got that right. But it wasn't any of those things. So I saw the audiologist department who did all these balance tests and eye tracking and things like that, testing the inner ear physical functionality, and that was all fine. Nothing wrong with that. But because I was dropped on my head a lot when I was a cheerleader, I was a flyer and I was thrown in the air and I wasn't very good at twisting and used to come down the wrong way around and got dropped on the floor a lot on my head. So we also took a brain scan. So I went to the radiology department, had a brain scan, looking at the inner ear mechanism and just checking overall for any bleed on the brain or damage from an injury that might be causing this. Nothing came up, no sign of anything like MS or anything like that as well, so we ruled those out. So after audiology I went to the brain scanning. After the brain scanning I went to orthoptics and ophthalmology, which were the eye doctors basically in the hospital, and they did all these vision tests and looked at the visual structure of my eyes and things to make sure that it wasn't being caused by something visual that was making me see dizzy and then become nauseous from what I was looking at, as opposed to the sensation of dizziness. Anyway, Dale said it's fine. So the ophthalmologist then suggested I go to the neurologist, so then I was referred to the neurologist's office. So by the time I got an appointment with the neurologist office, which I bumped up by going private and paying for my own consultant's appointment, I managed to get in to see him in June. And he spoke to me. I had written down everything that had ever happened in chronological order, plus some events that happened as I was younger, as I say, including an event where I collapsed in the kitchen at our flat in Reading, and I had tests at the time, blood tests, blood pressure tests, all sorts of things to find out why I collapsed, but my legs just stopped working and I just fell down, and I couldn't feel my legs for a while, and my hands and feet were tingling. My feet, when they obviously came back to sensation later on, but my hands were tingling, and we had an ambulance out, and they were completely unable to help, but I went and had follow-up appointments with the GP and things after that to be tested to try and find out why I'd collapsed. And then in maybe the end of May, I had a seizure-like attack in a car, and I couldn't move, and I was completely sort of ramrod stiff, like I just couldn't be moved out of the seat position. I was stuck, strapped into the front seat of this car. And although I couldn't voluntarily move, one of my legs was jumping up and down like a jackrabbit, completely unbidden and completely uncontrollably. And obviously, being stuck, I then panicked, which did not help the situation one bit. But I got taken to A&E then in an ambulance, and then discharged and told to wait and see the neurologist because I had an appointment scheduled, but just to wait and see the neurologist, and they didn't think that it was a stroke or anything like that, but they wanted me to go and see the epilepsy seizure clinic, which happened to be the same neurologist, so I went to the same person that I was already going to go and see. Ended up back in A&E a week or so later, when the symptoms that I was presenting with, the 111 telephone hotline decided I was having a stroke, and so we went to A&E. A&E said, "Get out of here, you're wasting resources," which was charming as ever. They are seriously underfunded, but the 111 service sends you there. So, you know, it's not like you are deciding as an individual that you think that you need to go to A&E. You're being told by the medical system that's where you need to go, and they're then saying you shouldn't be here. So, you know, I think that's not very good. 111 is not working, and it needs to be done better or discontinued, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, then after all of that happened, I ended up going to see the neurologist, and within about 15 minutes of being there and reading out everything that I'd written down to remember what happened in what order and everything, I explained it all to him, and he said, "I know exactly what it is," and gave me this diagnosis of vestibular migraine. Obviously at this point I'd never had a headache associated with it at all, so migraine was not on my radar at all of things it could be. I thought any of these things to do with the brainstem, because that's what all of these symptoms related back to, was problems with the brainstem. So I thought maybe it was Chiari malformation or TIAs and things, because I have a very strong history of blood clots in my family. So it was a very scary and horrible time, and in the end he diagnosed me with this and took me off the beta-histine that I had been taking for many years disease, which I didn't have, but they thought it was worth putting me on it just in case, which had been kind of helping with the dizziness, and put me on to amitriptyline. And I've had problems with the amitriptyline because I metabolise it too fast, and the drug doesn't get enough time to actually go into effect. So I take it and it works for a while, and then my body adapts. So we up the dose, I take it, it works for a while, my body adapts, we up it. And so I'm going back for the third time to see the neurologist now since June, to work out what we're going to do next, medication wise and treatment plan wise, and see if there's something better. But it is a chronic condition, and even though someone tells you it's a chronic condition, you don't ever really think it's going to keep happening. You think that they'll give you some magic pills and it will go away. And I think until you get a chronic illness, you never really grasp what that means. And certainly it's taken me a long time to realise that I'm going to be limited by this probably for the rest of my life, insofar as I let it limit me. But certainly I have to adapt every aspect of my life to cope with this condition. So, you know, I have to sleep all the time. I have to sleep in the middle of the day every day because I just get too tired. And that's partly a side effect of the medication, and that's partly a side effect of migraine in general. So to be diagnosed with chronic migraine, it has to be happening more than 15 times in a month or something like that. And I get it multiple times a day, every day, all day, back to back, just non-stop. And it switches from one aura to another, to another, to another, but it just keeps going. And it definitely seems to be hormonally related, and I get it worse in the week leading up to my period. And its symptoms are changing. So like the aphasia is much more pronounced now than it was before, but the tinnitus is almost gone, and the ear pain has almost gone. I have had 2 attacks with an actual migraine headache alongside more recently. Before, I never got the headaches. Now I have had 2 attacks with severe headaches, and the headache happens on the side, one side or the other of my head. And when you're having it, you're just so desperate for relief, and you feel like maybe if you ripped your teeth out, the pain would stop, because it shoots up through the side of your head. It's all the trigeminal nerve and all of this area on me that seems to get affected with the pain, and behind the eye socket, and it's excruciating pain. And I'm very, very glad that I don't have that kind of migraine all the time. In a way, it's so much easier to deal with exhaustion and chronic issues without any pain. I'm the lucky one. If you imagine those people who are having headaches like that on a regular basis with that level of pain, you know, you wonder what kind of quality of life they have. And that concerns me, that now I've had a few of those attacks, is that going to become part of this? So at work, I've had to adapt my my work situation. So now I have a little bed in the corner of the office, and I work longer hours, but with an hour for lunch so that I can go and sleep. One of the side effects of this is I don't eat lunch because I don't have time to eat lunch and have a sleep, and I know which of the two I need more. So I snack instead of eating real food, which isn't healthy or good, but it's just the way of things. And when I'm having a bad time and the medication's not on top of things, I need to be escorted up and down the stairs and held on to, because I would just fall all over the place. But the new aphasia things are more concerning for me with work, because I need to be able to communicate, I need to be able to write, especially as I code. Maybe that won't be affected because it's not that kind of a language, but programming languages, you know, I store them somewhere, and if it's that part of the brain that works on normal language, that could be kind of a serious problem for me. So that's why I haven't made any videos for the last week, because I have just been in bed for a week. I haven't left the house at all since Thursday. It's now Tuesday night. I've barely done anything. My husband's been mostly looking after me, and it's been rubbish. So I'm back to the hospital next week for hopefully a new plan, but that's what's been going on, and that's why I've not been making any videos. If you know anyone who has had vestibular migraine, or you've had it yourself, then, you know, drop a comment in the description box below. Share this video with them, get them to get in touch with me. It's a very lonely illness to have, because you end up unable to leave the house, but you also end up unable to communicate properly with the aphasia and with the vision issues and things. So I can't even text people when I'm like that, and everyone's at work anyway, so it's not fun. So yeah, I've made a lovely 7-grain mushroom risotto, which we're going to have for our dinner. I'm going to leave it there, but I thought I would give you guys a bit of a lowdown about what's going on with me. And I had a really lovely comment on one of my YouTube videos earlier today that just made me feel so much better, which is silly, but just it matters when you are trapped by a chronic illness. It does. I'm going to go now before I cry. I'm not hormonal or anything. Alright.